What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today, we are talking about this.
Welcome back to Special Report. Tonight we continue our series looking at unidentified, anomalous, say that easy, phenomena.
Very credible sources told me that some of the UAP activity in space specifically is reverse engineered technology.
Does that mean in space in low Earth orbit, or does that mean traveling through the solar system?
What was implied to me was traveling through the solar system.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we've recovered the vehicles and we actually have physical proof. And I was actually partially cleared into some of those activities. It was beyond oral testimony provided to me. I actually had partial access to the data and actually read the intelligence reports resulting from those programs.
Like with your own eyes,
Correct.
You saw it.
Yes.
Nuclear weapon testing, atomic weapon testing has a ripple effect that can down these things.
Especially high altitude nuclear testing, which
Yeah.
is one of the things that they did in the 1950s in particular.
Yeah, and so they started doing it
Yeah.
to like shoot fish in a barrel, basically.
They did it on purpose?
Yeah, and so did
That's
Russia.
why they were doing it?
Yeah, and then Russia started doing it. No. Yeah, and then
We think China and Russia both have retrieved alien spacecraft as
That's
well.
what the officials in my film go on the record stating.
They go on the record, in fact, saying that what in 1989, we think the Soviets retrieved a tic-tac shaped spacecraft.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Y'all, I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. All right, so what's today's video about? Well, today's video is about a lot. So this is the only video you need to watch about the age of disclosure. And of course, the one I released yesterday too. All right, so I'm going to be covering David Grusch's brand new interview where he talks about the age of disclosure. And mind you, David Grusch hasn't done an interview in a really long time, well over a year. And we're going to be talking about Dan Farah's new interview on Joe Rogan. Dan Farah is the director and producer of The Age of Disclosure. And I'm also going to be giving my review of The Age of Disclosure. I've seen it, and I'm going to tell you about it. Now, let's start with a little mini review of The Age of Disclosure. All right, now people are going to be concerned about the price, okay, of the film. I'm not really here to talk about that, to be honest with you. You know, you decide if that's too expensive for you. It's around $25 or so. Now, I will say Amazon and other platforms, they take like 50% of what you make. So just keep that in mind. I think if we want to blame anybody for high prices, it's these platforms because, you know, I'm also working on a documentary and we're running into these same issues. And then if you get a distributor to help you put your documentary on other platforms, they also take a cut, right? So you're like having to bump the price up just so that you can make a profit at the end. That's why a lot of these films, you know, don't get made or just run into problems. It's all these fees and everything that these people take, and they're crazy ass fees, I'm telling you, right? So, you know, price, that's up to you. Now, the film itself, it's going to break it down into two categories, production and content. Production, 10 out of 10. Beautifully shot. The opening, especially, very House of Cards style. Very, you know, just so well lit and shot, and the cinematography is amazing. The content, you know, it depends who you are, right? I'm a UFO researcher. I look into this stuff all the time. So for me, I learned some things, but, you know, things I hadn't heard before, but that doesn't really mean anything to me, to be honest with you, because what the film made in claims, it lacked in proof or evidence. Basically, it just wants to tell you that if you combine all these people's stories, there's something there. That's proof, but that's not proof, right? And as I'm going to explain in this video, there's a lot of contradictions in that documentary that your average Joe is going to have no idea about. But, you know, what I do like about it is that it creates a conversation. People are talking about it. People are talking about this topic. So that in and of itself is a great thing. And putting together a documentary like this is literally so difficult. So much respect to the team to put this together. You know, you can't get everything right. I get it. But when you make a documentary that's like, hey, we're here to prove claims and that, you know, claim thing, like just a different style of documentary, right? So, you know, I'm just trying to be honest here. All right. Probably going to get some hate in the comments. I don't know. But I just felt that this was lacking, right? That was just a lot of shine, but no substance. You know what I mean? It was like a kit car. You ever heard of that? It's a car where they would take like an old Fiero and then make it look like a Ferrari, but it's not really a Ferrari. That's what this is, in my opinion. It's just a kit car. It says a lot of things, and it felt very much like a lecture. Lou Elizondo in front of a chalkboard and all that, like, and that guy's burned his credibility, you know, in the last year or so or more to a lot of people in the UFO field, you know. So having him at the center of it for the UFO community, for most people, not a good thing, right? For the average Joe, this will get people interested. But they're thinking this documentary is going to bring disclosure. The president's going to come out and talk about this stuff. And I'll get to that in a second. Now, let's move on to some clips. And I'll discuss the documentary as we go through. But again, I mean all of this with respect. It's just my opinion, okay? But I am going to prove some contradictions that are in the film. So let's start with Dan Farah's interview on Joe Rogan. Here's clip number 1 of many.
First time I saw you was the first time I saw your documentary, which is fucking excellent.
Thank you, bro.
The Age of Disclosure, really good. Can't recommend it enough. If you're a UFO dork like myself and you're in and out, like sometimes like this is bullshit. Maybe it's real. This is bullshit. Maybe I'm wasting my time. Maybe it's real. Maybe it's... Go see The Age of Disclosure. And then you'll be fully in the I don't fucking know, but something's going on. That's where I am right now. I don't know, but something's going on.
Definitely something going on. It's a real situation.
Yeah, it's a real weird one. When you see all these like high-level government employees talking about secret access programs and back engineering programs that have been going on for decades and decades in secrecy, and you're like, your documentary did a fantastic job of highlighting a couple of reasons why when people are skeptical and they go, okay, if there was a program like this, why wouldn't they just tell us? You have to really understand the consequences of what they've done, because what they've done is lie to Congress for a long time. It's misappropriation of funds, clear felonies.
Lie to the public, lie to Congress, lie to sitting presidents.
Just the money stuff. And also, let's just be just honest about human nature. If you have complete access to enormous amounts of money that's not under any oversight at all, for sure some of it went in the pockets of people that probably shouldn't have got it. 100%.
I think it's safe to say
100% has to.
Everyone I've talked to who's aware of the details of the deeply hidden legacy program says that it's at least over $1 trillion spent since the 40s.
Oh my God.
It's an enormous amount of money.
Now, this is an interesting point to make here, you know, secret and this and that. They've been lying to Congress. Nobody's talked about it. What do you mean? I mean, everyone talks about it. Joe Rogan especially should know this, that how many people have gone on a show to reveal all of these secrets, right? Everyone's talked about it. People read books, made other documentaries, podcasts. I mean, what are we talking about? Literally everyone talks about it. It's like the biggest non-secret secret there is. It's like, I don't understand. Right, and you even have people quote within the program who've come out. Like, I'm really confused by that, to be honest with you.
Rubio and Rounds and Gillibrand, 3 of the most senior leaders in our government, talk very openly about their concern about China and them getting ahead of us on reverse engineering this technology. Rubio says it keeps him up at night. Rounds very animatedly says in the film, do you think for 1 second that they wouldn't use this technology for their domination if they didn't think we had access to the same technology?
How is everybody getting these crashed UFOs? What's the story behind that?
So here's an interesting thing. One of the unexpected things I learned in talking to sources, like real credible people, is that some of the crashes were actual crashes, where just, you know, crashes happen, just like they do for, you know, you could drive as safe as possible, fly as safe as possible, crashes are going to happen. But some of them were actually caused by elements of our military intelligence community and elements of foreign military intelligence community people. So like one of the realizations early on was that nuclear weapon testing, atomic weapon testing has a ripple effect that can down these things.
Especially high altitude nuclear testing, which is one of the things that they did in the 1950s in particular.
Yeah, and so they started doing it.
Yeah.
To like shoot fish in a barrel, basically.
They did it on purpose?
Yeah. And so did
That's
Russia.
why they were doing it?
Yeah, and then Russia started doing it.
No.
Yeah, and then
it's like throwing dynamite into the river.
It's like fishing with dynamite. Yeah,
fishing with dynamite.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
And which is crazy on multiple levels. A, you could accidentally provoke a nuclear conflict with another party that doesn't know what you're doing. B, you're picking a fight with a more intelligent, superior species, right? Which is probably not going to work out great for anybody.
They probably couldn't believe we were using nukes in the sky. These fucking idiots nuked some of our spaceships.
And the ocean.
Now, this clip is definitely something new that I hadn't heard before, that basically all these tests that we ran before of shooting, detonating nuclear bombs, missiles, whatever, in the atmosphere, we were actually doing it on purpose to shoot down UFOs. What? Where's the proof? Where's the evidence, right? In the documentary, they go through it like they're gifting us the UFOs, right? Hal Puthoff brings it up in the movie, right? And then here, some do crash because we make them crash from nuclear blasts, which, first of all, why would this advanced technology that can go through space, time, all this stuff that they claim it can do, a nuclear bomb going off is going to affect it? That seems so, so primitive, right? The sun detonates a bazillion nuclear bombs a day. Why aren't they affected by that? I don't know. I just so confused by this comment, right? And again, there's no proof presented, but we're getting UFOs from that. How many? Let's get into details. But we can't, which is, again, an issue with this documentary and an issue with just this topic in general. And I think the documentary is just a reflection of the topic and the secrecy that still holds. But they want you to be, on the edge of your seat because, we're telling you what we can. There's way more stuff classified. If you knew that, holy cow, you'd believe everything. You'd be convinced. I don't want to be convinced of anything, right? I just want to know. It's either yes or no. There's either proof or there's not. There's no convincing when there's proof.
An analogy that multiple people actually use with me, they said, put yourself in the shoes of an advanced non-human intelligent species. Here's the analogy. Imagine you're a zookeeper and you see this gorilla in a cage, and you love this gorilla. It's sweet. You watch it evolve over the years. You see it communicate. It waves to you. You have no issue with this gorilla. You don't wish it any harm. But what happens if one day you come in and the other security guards say, "Hey, last night the gorilla got out of his cage, walked around the park, was playing with the gun cabinet, and then he went back in his cage." You're like, "All right, that's concerning. Let me keep an eye on this, right?" And then what happens if a month later you come in and they're like, "Hey, the gorilla, this time he got in the gun cage. He was playing with the gun, and then he went back in his cage with the gun. What do we do here, right?" So
it's even worse than that.
So it's like, we'll take the gun out of his hand, we'll put it back, we'll change the lock and all stuff, right? But then what happens if it evolves to a place where sometime later you come out of your house on a Sunday, you're not even going to work, you got your daughter's hand in your hand, and the gorilla's standing on your front lawn with a shotgun? Then you've got to make a choice really quick, right? Like, do I just take this thing out, or do I try to communicate with it and risk my daughter getting shot? And this analogy has been used with me multiple times to describe the dynamic we have with non-human intelligent life and the situation we're barreling towards.
Yeah, it would almost be like you went into the cage and the gorilla was welding. And the gorilla's got goggles on. He's making a bore. He's putting together a shotgun.
So this is what's interesting about this analogy, is that I think a lot of this happens behind the scenes, not just with people like Dan Farah, but just anyone getting involved with all these government, agents and government officials. Like, instead of showing you proof, they give you these weird analogies to make you understand where we're at with this, right? Put yourselves in advanced civilization shoes and imagine we're this gorilla in the zoo who gets it. Well, wait, what? We're not in some zoo. We're our own people. I don't care if they put us here or not, if that's the theory, which first of all, in the age of disclosure, they pretty much say they don't know anything. They don't know who they are or where they come from. Even Lou Elizondo claims in the movie that they could be humans that have just been here, that branched off. So why do they keep calling it non-human intelligence? They don't know that. It could literally be human intelligence. Now we say this is not man-made, but then you give the theory that it could be man that's here, or us from the future. Again, contradictions, a lot of them. But this theory that we're this gorilla in the zoo, I don't like that analogy. I don't think that fits at all, right? Because one, where's the proof of this advanced civilization, right? Where's the proof of the zookeeper? So I don't know, whatever. But I think a lot of these analogies are used to convince people of things. Oh, I get it. Okay, yeah. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments of that analogy.
And what I think ultimately is going to have to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised, man, if it happens soon after the film comes out, I think a sitting president has to step to the microphone and say, definitively, humanity's not alone in the universe. We have recovered technology of non-human origin. So have other nations. There is a high-stakes secret Cold War race to reverse engineer this technology. We need to win this race, and the U.S. intends to lead in this new chapter. I think that needs to happen, like a level set of basic facts, and I really do think it will happen.
Well, if that is going to happen, I think Trump might be the only guy that's willing to do something crazy.
I think it's very likely that he does that. I know that he is aware of the film. I know he's aware of what people in his administration say.
Has he watched it? You know that?
He has not watched the film, but I know he's very aware of it, and I know that they are discussing internally how they're going to react to the film publicly. And I also know that he has very recently, tasked Tulsi Gabbard with getting to the bottom of the situation and finding out for him what he needs to know that he doesn't know.
Really?
Yeah. And as Rubio said in the film, Rubio says on camera, on the record, on the film, that this has been kept from sitting presidents. And he goes into detail on how that's been done and how it's the career bureaucrats in certain elements of the government that control this information and just wait presidents out and don't feel like they have a need to know.
Right. Well, there were some people that tried to find information out in the beginning of the Trump administration. Who was it? There was someone that talked about it on record and said he was told at every turn that you don't have the clearance.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Trump actually found out about the base facts in his last presidency and was contemplating stepping to the microphone then.
Now, this is an interesting part that Dan Farah and others have brought up, that Trump is going to make, an announcement or, but he hasn't even seen the film, right? I mean, what are we talking about? Clearly, he's not convinced of anything, and even people around him, but he hasn't even seen the film. So, the fact that Trump's going to come out after this documentary, I think, what if it doesn't happen, right? Where are they going to go with this thing, right? I think everyone's expecting Trump to come out and say, we're not alone and this, but he's not going to do it without any proof. That's one thing. Good on Trump, man. We hate him or like, at least with this, he's standing his ground, and he's not going to come out with any proof because he'll look like an idiot. He'll look like the biggest goofball in human history, not the biggest hero, right? So I don't know. I just, I think they're waiting for that stuff to come back from Mars, and that will prove that we're not alone, and then he could say it, and then people will attach that to this, but whatever. Anyway, it's just an interesting thought, right? And look, he's not the only one that's said that. David Grusch also brought this up in his interview.
Certainly the current president is very knowledgeable on this subject, and I trust his leadership on it, and I think he's assembled an A-team cabinet, and I really believe if Trump wants to be the greatest president and the most consequential leader likely in world history, he certainly has the knowledge, the capabilities, and understanding of some of these sensitive government transparency issues.
I have access, and I speak to people about it. I've had actually meetings on it. People that are very smart and very solid have said they believe there is something out there. And, it makes sense that there could be. I've never been convinced, even despite that. I just, for some reason, it's not my thing.
So you think, one, he knows, and two, he's open to transparency on UAPs?
He certainly is very well informed on this issue. Leave it at that. I don't want to get ahead of what the president might want to reveal personally.
So it's like he knows they're aware of all this stuff, but we keep hearing that, but we don't know. Again, no proof. Just people talking about things coming. They know this is happening behind the scenes, movement. It's just one of those things where you should just check out and see what happens if anything breaks, because trying to follow this is impossible. So there's something that Dan Farah said, right after, talking about Marco Rubio. And I remember this part in the film where Marco Rubio's like, strategic surprise, right? We didn't think Japan could bomb Pearl Harbor. We didn't think this about another country, this, that, the other. Okay. And then they say, well, it's not China. It's not Russia. Okay, but you just said we thought that before and we were wrong many times. So it literally could be them. Again, another contradiction. In fact, Rubio's openly saying it could be China and it could be Russia, right? Again, it's just so weird. And look, there's more to this that we'll get to in a second when it comes to China, Russia, and reverse engineered technology. You're gonna want to hear this.
Step
How
into
much
the microphone.
do you think Elon knows?
Look, I've seen him obviously talk to you about it. I think he knows a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think you get the contracts and the clearances you need to operate in space without some horse trading.
Yeah, when I went to SpaceX, I'm like, motherfucker, you know everything. There's no way you're launching these fucking things into space without them keying you in on exactly what's going on. He's just sly about it.
Well, I
He
did
goes, well, if they are aliens, they're certainly all subtle. That's what he says. Like,
Well,
are they really? I don't know, man.
I think it's impossible to operate in space like he does and not be aware of everything. And also at the level he operates clearance-wise. I held a secret screening at the National Space Symposium earlier this year, which is the Super Bowl of the space industry. It's like 60 people, heavy hitters from the space industry. We didn't promote it or publicize it at all, but there were a dozen guys from SpaceX there. And they all seem very aware of everything revealed in the film.
All right, so this is interesting, the Elon Musk part, right? Because even Elon Musk has said on Joe Rogan, if he knew anything, he would come on Joe Rogan and say it. Now, I'm not saying Elon doesn't know anything because of his involvement with Tim Taylor. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But I don't know. Does Elon know more? I mean, it's just a weird thing. I don't know. And then they screened it for people at SpaceX and they knew what was in the film. I mean, that could just mean they've heard those stories before. Again, not proof of anything. But that's the point. They bring you to the line just before proof, and then they exit, and hoping you won't notice you didn't get to your destination, right? Imagine if your Uber took you to another place you didn't tell them to take you, and then it's like, yep, here we go. That's basically what's happening here.
I mean, one thing I can say is like, look, if I was aware of any evidence of aliens, Joe, you have my word, I will come on your show, and I will reveal it on the show.
Now, let's move to the biggest bombshell that I heard in this Dan Farah interview that's also included in the film.
When people talk about the successful back engineering of these things, what are they saying? Are they saying that they can fly around Earth? Are they saying they can go outside of Earth's atmosphere and go into deep space with these things? Like, what have they said we are currently able to do with these back engineered crafts that we've supposedly
people that I
made
can't
ourselves?
attribute the statement to that were very credible sources told me that some of the UAP activity in space specifically is reverse engineered technology.
Okay. Does that mean in space in low Earth orbit, or does that mean traveling through the solar system?
What was implied to me was traveling through the solar system.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So are these
Here's another thing someone
manned?
that same person said to me, by the way.
Yes.
So before I forget, that their belief is that the technology we have would not be pulled out even to stop a world war. It would not; those cards would not be shown until moments before, like, a nuclear war situation. So they wouldn't pull it out to stop like any of the wars we've experienced in the last, since World War II. They wouldn't, regardless of how many.
It has to get to 9.
It has to get to a level where there's no other option.
Wow.
Because it's show your cards.
Now, when they say that they've traveled through the solar system, is this biological human beings or are these drone crafts? Like, what are they saying?
I never got any of that. All I was told is there's some of the UAPs that are seen, that have been seen by our astronauts on space missions, are non-human intelligent life, and some are reverse engineered craft. That's what I was told.
But we don't know whether there's a person inside of them.
I don't.
If they are reverse engineered and they are ours, and we figured out how to make our own.
That I don't know.
Yeah, I need to know that.
Yeah.
That's kind of important.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Is there fucking some dude named Bob flying through space? Some Top Gun guy that they've given the task of traveling to Venus real quick?
Wouldn't surprise me. One of the other things that, we were talking about Clapper and Rubio and what they said about China. Something else that they both said, despite these guys being completely ideologically opposed, right? Like they have nothing else in common. They both spoke to how we as a species, not just our country, but the entire human species, is held back by this. The fact that there's something in the human psyche that says I can't prepare for or wrap my head around something I haven't experienced yet.
Right.
And how that leads to strategic surprise because you're not preparing for something that can ultimately end up happening. And Rubio makes great examples. He says, we didn't think the Japanese could torpedo us at Pearl Harbor till they figured it out, and they did, right? We didn't think that terrorists were going to come here and learn how to fly commercial airplanes and use them in a terror attack until they did. And with this, he's like, we don't want strategic surprise to lead to a disaster on this front. We need to be ahead of it. And he very powerfully says that, often strategic surprise changes the course of human history.
So this is the question. If we have craft that we can travel through the solar system, we meaning someone in the United States of America, does China? Do they have the same ability right now? Is there an understanding of where they're at in the race versus us?
Everyone who talked about the race with China was extremely concerned about how close they were. And multiple people talked about how these incursions over our sensitive bases and nukes could, in fact, be reverse engineered Chinese craft.
So what? So basically he's saying that we have reverse engineered some of these craft and we've been out there in space traveling around. What? What are we talking about? Huh? Let me tell you why that's interesting. Because Eric Davis, who is heavily featured in the documentary Age of Disclosure, doesn't think that at all. He doesn't think ARVs, which stands for Alien Reproduction Vehicle, exist at all. Check this out.
One of the things you kind of definitively said during your talk up there was that there are no ARVs or alien reproduction vehicles. And so I think that's really a kind of a bombshell because there's so many theories out there like, oh, this incident or that incident or thing,
I know
ARV. But, I can sort of take their word for it because we barely scratched the surface of how they even.
Yeah.
So I have some questions about this. So do you think anything's happened recently, maybe like in the last 10 years that's real new, like advancement, like progress?
I'm not aware of it because I'm out of it now.
Sure.
I've been out of it since the ATIP ended. So, so I'm not read into it at the level I was for the OSAP and ATIP purposes. I don't know. All I do know is I was given a firm, hey, in 1989, the CIA shut it all down because us, and we know the other companies that we had been found out from our customer didn't make any progress after several decades of investigating. There was no progress made. So I said, so what's the story about Northrop Grumman having an ARV or somebody out at Area 51 having an ARV? And he said, oh, that's all myth. He said, the people that have been putting out there don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they don't know why, unless they're just another Bob Lazar type. They're just going to, they're long on the tooth and they're going to tell a story.
Yeah. Is there any chance that was disinformation or that was passage material?
No, actually, it wasn't disinformation. It was even Bob Lazar's information is disinformation. It's because they believe their own bullshit.
I mean that they were telling you that there's no ARVs, we've made no...
Oh, no, that's not disinformation. No, that's coming straight on a classified level.
Sure.
With me having the need to know, and they don't have a need to give me disinformation. Okay. We're on a program, and we're going to give them contract money to work with us, and they're not going to sit there and bullshit with us if we're going to give them money.
I don't think so. It's way too 5D chess, right? Yeah, I guess.
When you're saying ARV, do you mean like a one-to-one recreation of a UAP and an HI vehicle, or do you think there's aircraft systems that have kind of leveraged technologies off?
Definitely no aircraft systems that have leveraged anything, and there's been no one-to-one reproduction. A lot of that fell into the psyche of the UFO community because of Bob Lazar and then Brad Sorensen and Mark McCandless. So I don't know where they're coming from. And then other people kind of came out of the woodwork saying the same thing, but no proof. I mean, there's been photographs, but those photographs, I haven't analyzed them. I don't remember Bruce Maccabee looked at them. I know Bruce Maccabee had only said they definitely looked like hoaxes to him, but I don't think he ever issued a report on them because he's got lots of reports on UAPs that he has done photo and film and video analysis of.
Have you ever spoken to the Brad Sorensen and McCandless?
No, Hal has. Hopitoff has.
Yeah. Well, Brad, what do you think about adversarial governments having, functional vehicles that they've strapped?
Okay, if they do, then basically, why are we still a country? Why haven't we been conquered?
And it doesn't just stop there, right? I mean, again, I thought we were saying, China, Russia can't have it, strategic surprise, all these things. And then Dan Farah says on this other interview on News Nation that Russia had a Tic Tac, back in the 80s.
We think China and Russia both have retrieved alien spacecraft as well.
That's what the officials in my film go on the record stating.
They go on the record, in fact, saying that what in 1989, we think the Soviets retrieved a Tic Tac shaped spacecraft that had crashed.
which was significantly larger than the Tic Tac encountered by the Nimitz carrier strike group.
And what's also interesting is Dan Farah's comments about the Tic Tac. Listen to this, and then I'll explain after.
And whether the Tic Tac is one of ours.
I don't think it is.
No?
No. I talked to everybody who actually ran the investigation of the Tic Tac from various agencies and to the pilots. No one thinks it's man-made.
Really?
And also, if it was man-made, that would mean that someone cracked a new energy source that far back, which is 20 years at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And has never used it to benefit our country or another country, to solve the energy crisis, to make a superior craft that we've seen used. It's just hard to believe that no one would use that to fuel their economy. I mean, it'd be like a total, restart of everything if you had that technology. I mean, the craft with that Tic Tac was going from sea level to 80,000 feet, which is space, and hovering in space, going back down, hovering at sea level, and doing this for hours. We don't have anything. One of the scientists who was involved in one of the UAP programs for the government in my film does the math and says the energy required to do that is the electrical output of the entire United States for, he said, a week. Some stupid amount of energy required.
I think it's even more than a week, but yeah, I remember him saying that.
So he's basically saying, no, this can't be ours. This isn't man-made. And then claims that we have reverse engineered stuff and are flying around space. So that Tic Tac could be an ARV, and it could be from China. But again, we just said they don't have this stuff, right? They can't have it. It's just so weird. It's all convoluted, if you ask me. Nothing makes sense. It's like maybe they should use that chalkboard in the movie to lay out these facts so that they don't contradict themselves. Again, nobody's going to catch this stuff unless you're deep into it like me, like an idiot. Then you know this stuff, right? But most people aren't going to know this at all. And to be fair, they're not promoting this film to the UFO community. This is strictly for people outside the UFO community, because if you're in it and you're quite knowledgeable, you would see these contradictions. And I think anyone not pointing out these contradictions that knows this stuff is being a little disingenuous. And one other contradiction that was very interesting is in the documentary, they talk about ATIP a lot, right? ATIP. They don't even bring up OSAP. Yeah, exactly. If you know about OSAP, then you know this doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they bring any of this up in the film, right? Because in 2017, the New York Times released an article, right? Huge news, broke the seal, if you will. Well, George Knapp came out after and said that they got a lot wrong in that article. Take a look at this.
Every news organization in the world started reporting on UFOs after the Times did the story. The report in December of 2017 was explosive. You and I knew it was coming and had done some things in advance. It's even in your film, Hunt for the Skinwalker. Hey, in a couple of weeks, something big is coming. Right. But the New York Times story, as important as it was, got it wrong. They had reported about the existence of a program called ATIP, and the guy who was in charge of it was Lou Elizondo, who had worked as an insider. He had came forward. He was upset that secrecy existed. The Times said that the ATIP had a budget of $22 million that had been arranged by Senator Harry Reid, that the money went to Robert Bigelow, and they were studying UFOs. Well, a lot of that was right, and it was a crucial and important story, but a lot of it was wrong. The actual program was called something else. And in the months that followed, I started digging into that. I was invited to go to a meeting in Washington, D.C. with Senator Harry Reid and an intelligence guy that I can say the name of it now. His name is Jim Lakatsky. He had worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency, had spent 20 years as a rocket scientist, analyzing enemy systems and doing reverse engineering, things of that sort. And he took an interest in Skinwalker Ranch and the possibility that there were national defense considerations based on our book, Hunt for the Skinwalker. He read the book. He shared it with other intelligence officials. They thought it was interesting as well, so he asked his superiors for permission to go visit the ranch. He reached out to Robert Bigelow, went to the property, had a dramatic experience, went back to Washington, wrote up a proposal for a program, sold it to Harry Reid, who pitched it to fellow senators. They secured $22 million. The program is called OSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program. It does not mention UFOs in any of the documents. It was put out as a contract. Robert Bigelow created an organization called BASS. Apologies for all these acronyms, by the way. OSAP is the program under DIA. BASS is the organization that got the contract, and they started a study. It was a secret study. It was supposed to last for 5 years. Skinwalker Ranch was used as a sort of a base of operations, but it wasn't the focus of the study. And they proceeded to hire 50 full-time investigators. Biggest UFO program in the history of our government that we know of.
And look, like Jeremy Corbell says right after George Knapp says that, we're here to poke the bear on this show. Yeah, me too.
We're also going to poke the bear on this show.
And there was a lot of confusion about ATIP, OSAP, this, that, Lou Elizondo. This is what Jim Lakatsky had to say about Lou Elizondo, and George Knapp asked Lou Elizondo about this.
Dr. James Lakatsky answered an email. Some news organization asked him for a photo, and along the way they said something about OSAP that he corrected, that it seemed like the questioner got it wrong, and he just corrected him, but he didn't want to give a comment. They used his comments anyway, and it sounds like he's coming after you. I'm telling you, he was not coming after you. He was not. He was just pointing out you weren't really a big part of OSAP. You were invited to be part of it, and if it had survived, you would have been part of it, but he was just clarifying that, and it sounds like he's attacking.
No, I was not part of OSAP. I made it very clear in my book. In fact, Jim was one of the founders and creators of that. The guy deserves enormous credit for that. He really does. There would not be an ATIP had there not been Jim Lakatsky.
Again, there would be no ATIP without OSAP. Why didn't they bring that up in the film? Why didn't they talk about this at all? And I even made a video about all of this. Luis Elizondo is at the center of another controversy. And in today's video, we're going to be jumping in on that. Because the controversy is, did Luis Elizondo run a program called ATIP, right? Or OSAP? And in today's video, we're going to look at what is ATIP and what is OSAP and some of the comments from the community about this, because Eric Davis just posted on Facebook some quite controversial comments about Luis Elizondo and his involvement with this Pentagon-run UFO program. All right, I'll put a link in the description feel free to go check that out. Now let's jump to the rest of David Grusch's interview on Fox News.
Welcome back to Special Report. Tonight we continue our series looking at unidentified anomalous, say that easy, phenomena, what many people still call UFOs. UAPs. Last week we spoke with the director of The Age of Disclosure. It's a new documentary out about a suspected government cover-up over UAPs for decades, which debuts tonight in select theaters around the country, is also available on Prime Video. It's powerful. It features testimony from 34 former and current government officials, including witnesses who have testified before Congress. Earlier, we spoke with another whistleblower who is now a congressional task force member on the UAP subject.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Well, let's get some insight into the UAP, or UFO, it used to be called, controversy, and what Congress is trying to do about it. Joining us now, retired Air Force Major David Grusch, who has been a whistleblower on the subject of UFOs, UAPs, and government transparency. He's a special advisor now to the House UAP Task Force. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on, Brett.
So since then, people say, where is the evidence? What's happening? Why don't we know more right now, almost 2 years later?
Well, certainly the last administration didn't help, and my hearing, of course, was during the last administration, and they were not exactly super transparent on this issue, unfortunately. But now that the task force has been created, I've been able to, guide the members within the boundaries of what they're actually cleared for.
When people look at this, they look online, they say, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of people talking about encounters. There's a lot of people talking about videos, and we've seen a lot of that. Can we just cut it down to, you believe that we have encountered alien beings and that they've come to Earth and that we know about it as a U.S. government?
That seems to be the case. I don't like to characterize necessarily where they came from. They're definitely some kind of non-human sentience, but it is true, believe it or not, we've recovered the vehicles, and we actually have physical proof, and I was actually partially cleared into some of those activities. It was beyond oral testimony provided to me. I actually had partial access to the data and actually read the intelligence reports resulting from those programs.
Like with your own eyes,
Correct.
You saw it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting. David Grusch is saying with his own eyes, he's seen this evidence. First of all, great question by Brett Baer. Where's the evidence, right? And David Grusch is claiming it wasn't just oral testimony. He saw intelligence reports from these programs. But again, he's seen no craft or bodies, right? And then he brings up it's some sort of non-human sentience. But again, you just said you don't know where they're coming from. So it could be human, even if it's a different type of human you've never heard of, one that branched off. They call that crypto-terrestrials or ultra-terrestrials or time-traveling humans, right? But again, they keep calling it non-human sentience, which could be my fucking dog, right? So it's just, again, ambiguous, mysterious, to confuse you. So you don't really know what's going on. And he doesn't want to talk in exacts, right? Like, we have proof, we have these things. Where's the evidence is the biggest question. Where's the proof?
And so when people say this is kooky, this is out there, there's nothing to back it up.
I don't speak for other parts of the government, but I can tell you NASA, which I speak for, is open and transparent with our data.
Do you believe what Mr. David Grusch said, or is he lying?
Whatever he said, where's the evidence?
What do you say?
Certainly members of this current administration are very, very well aware of this reality.
So again, getting into this, is it interdimensional? Is it non-human? Again, you don't know what it is. So you can't say non-human. I'm sorry. You just can't say that. That doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense, he's seen photos. We know those can be doctored. Videos can all be doctored. Again, you can convince someone with just an analogy.
There's been a role to cover this up, you're saying, through administrations. And there have been people who have been threatened and told not to testify?
I was physically threatened even before I sent in my Intelligence Community Inspector General report under the previous administration. I actually had to go and seek legal protection that way because I was, literally in fear both professionally and in my personal life.
For the other people who are coming out, you say to them what? You've obviously faced intimidation. You talked about harassment. There are reports that others have too.
I say that there's hope. Certainly, Congress values whistleblower information right now, and certainly I believe there's an appetite with the administration to do the right thing on this as well. And there's some other things that are happening behind the scenes that I'll let the administration discuss when they're ready.
But let me be clear, David Grusch being threatened, his life being threatened. I saw a journalist from the New York Post sort of dox his wives and all this shit. That's unbelievable. I am not for that. I have no problem pushing back on some claims and asking questions, but crossing the line like they do with David Grusch, and they have, is despicable to me. Okay? Threats, however they may be, unacceptable. Doxing his wives and all that, showing their picture, bringing in the families, unacceptable. People that brought out his medical history, hey, he, had these mental moments and, all this stuff and whatever. It's like, dude, the guy had issues, understandably so, from his time in the service, right? And then he got help. He got help. He had problems and he got help. So I'm here to stand up for David Grusch in that instance, right? That's unacceptable to me. And people using that against him, his medical history, fucking despicable, if you ask me. I have no problem asking questions and, questioning all of this, right? I mean, we're talking aliens, like, at the end of the day. So I just find that to be unexcusable, if you ask me. Let's ask questions, but let's be cool about it.
And when you mentioned in that testimony of recovering the pilots or remains non-human, that's something that you saw as far as the intelligence with your eyes?
Yes. And it is a very uncomfortable, even for me now, as somebody who's seen it, experienced it, even talking about it, because it's so outside a normal person's worldview to understand that there is this biological sentience that have piloted these crafts that don't necessarily look 100% like you and I.
Were there pictures? Were there?
There were. Yes, there were.
When I said from another planet or from outer space, you said we don't know where they're from. Is it interdimensional? What are we talking about?
I've talked to a lot of, I'll call graybeards on the program. That is a subject of hot debate on origin. As a guy trained in physics formally as well in my background, I leave an open mind on what the origin is. Certainly, there is the extraterrestrial hypothesis, and they could be coming from elsewhere off Earth, but I don't usually go there because I did not see that data, and I'm not conversant in the high confidence theories that the U.S. government had.
I'm not aware of any remains that the department has of any signs of extraterrestrial beings or activity or technology.
You say we, the U.S. government knows, but there are many other governments around the world. Do they know?
They have their own programs, and like I said 2.5 years ago, we have been in arms race with our peer competitors, namely Russia and China, and they have their own programs in this regard. And I was actually able to view a body of intelligence that discussed adversarial programs, and I'll leave it at that.
We've recovered things, you say, bodies and physical remains. Was there a sense that the motive of how they got here, what they were doing, was it peaceful, not peaceful?
We've seen a mixed bag of activity. And motive and intent, why they're visiting, that's once again, that gets into our assessments, not necessarily, we can't quite understand the intent of some of the sentience and why they're visiting. Could it be because we have interesting genetic material on Earth? We're a Jurassic Park tourist attraction for them. Could be a myriad of reasons.
So again, we bring up all of this that other countries may have, but in the film, remember, like I said, in the film, they say there's no way China or Russia could have this. And then in the same breath, they talk about they do have this stuff. Like, which is it? Again, it's all over the place. I'm so confused myself. And I do this every day, y'all. And I'm confused as hell because all the information never adds up because it is just stories. and you just have a bunch of people across a bunch of different military agencies and intel agencies and government officials and Congress members and this and that and secret yahoos that all just tell different stuff that doesn't add up. So whatever, you know, maybe it's just me. I can't put the puzzle pieces together, right? It's pretty simple. It's one question. Are we alone on this planet? Where's the proof or evidence if it's yes? Right? Where's the proof? All right, y'all. We'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
So yeah, this alien that had the glowing eyes, that's just, you know, I can't explain it. He went from ground level to like well above the 1-story house in the tree. And like I was saying, like, I knew exactly where he was going to go. It was the weirdest thing. And in the eyes, just the glowing eyes just looking down at me. And yeah, I closed my window, I locked it, I undid the twist knot, and I pretty much face planted in my bed. And I just remember telling myself over and over and over again, like saying out, like kind of out loud, not too loud, but just saying it out loud, like, please don't come get me, please don't take me, please leave me alone. I just kept repeating that stuff. And I remember, like, I still felt uneasy, and I remember going to my closet and opening my door, turning on my closet light, and I did that all the way through high school. The second experience that I had, I don't remember anything after that, okay? I don't remember falling asleep. I just remember that thing being outside my bedroom window. And then a couple years ago, I'm now in the Hawaiian Islands. I live on Oahu. A couple of years ago, I had finished up this one law class. It was during COVID, and I just went outside into the cul-de-sac, and I just, you know, I saw this like cigar shape. I reported this to MUFON. It was like a bluish purple hue. It was large. It was not a spacecraft. I mean, it was not an airplane or an aircraft like that. I mean, it was moving effortlessly. There was no noise like you would hear from an airplane or a helicopter. And yeah, I just watched it go from essentially the plane towards the Waianae coast, and it was gone within a couple of seconds. And I wasn't scared at all. Like, when I saw that thing, I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And I grabbed another roommate. I was like, hey, come look at this before it's gone. And that roommate was like, that's just the military. I'm like, no, that's not the military. That thing is huge and moving fast. Anywho, yeah, so those are my two experiences. Sorry for 2 messages.